Oh my goodness. Did you miss me? Yes, there's a little gray in the hair. A little older. 36 is what I'm looking at right now. 36 years old. I've been on this planet now for 36 years. And what we witnessed on Sunday was an absolute amazing performance in beautiful Milan, Cortina. The United States gets the gold for the first time since the 1980 Olympics, 46 years to the date of the miracle in Lake Placid. So that means the winter sports and the Winter Olympics have concluded. And now the run to the postseason begins. The Walleye, of course, continued to play while the NHL was on a 3-week hiatus. We're back onto the ice come Thursday night. Especially for the CBJ. Baseball is around the corner. Spring training is underway. And the big signings, of course. And where have I been? What have I been doing with my life? It's all tonight. On the first edition of All Andy Alfred, in this, the year of our Lord 2026, right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network. And for the first time in 2026, I am grateful to say to you folks, live from the Man Cave Studios here in West Toledo, I love you guys. And welcome into another edition of All Andy Alfred, the first edition in the year 2026. Hi again, everybody. This is your host, Andy Alfred, the host of All Andy Alfred. And it is great to be with you guys tonight on the podcast. It is great to be on the air with you guys. And you are listening to us on the plethora and watching us on the plethora of platforms with the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you listen to our show, wherever and whenever you're listening. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight, as well as watching us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, which is the All Andy Alfred Hangout page. And you can always be a part of our show by following us on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. It is at All Andy Alfred, as well as Facebook.com/All Andy Alfred. So welcome to the show tonight. Of course, on this, the 24th day of February 2026. Today's math day. The second month, the 24th date, the 26th of 2026. 2 plus 24 is 26. Of course, if you're noticing, before we get into it, we're going to get into the housekeeping. We're going to go into what's been happening with me, what's going on in my life, what's going on in the world, and recap everything, of course. We're on the air. We're back. We're going to be doing these shows now. 2 shows a week, of course. Back on the air doing 2 shows a week. We're doing shows Tuesday and Friday nights. This upcoming Friday will be a short edition of All Andy Alfred, and it'll be a Facebook Live edition of the podcast. Yours truly is headed back down to Bowling Green, of course, for the big hockey game. And I'm not talking Bowling Green State University hockey. They played Minnesota State last week, and it was a fantastic, great game. And I'll get into them in just a second because I think they could be going to the tournament. Well, of course, this upcoming Friday, big matchup, 8:30 puck drop at Slater Family Ice Arena. It is the Bowling Green High School hockey team playing in the OHSAA state playoffs. They'll be playing the Clay High School Eagles at Slater Family Ice Arena, 8:30 puck drop for that one. I will be there in attendance for that game. I wanted to catch a high school game this year. It's one of my things I like to do each year. You know, ever since the Winterfest, I saw Bowling Green play Findlay outdoors. I saw St. John's play outdoors. I've seen a lot of high school hockey, and that's one of my favorite things to do, to cover and everything like that. So that's where we'll be at on Friday. It'll be a Facebook Live edition of the podcast. We'll be at Slater Family Ice Arena to do All Andy Alfred from the Madhouse on Mercer, where we all started off, of course, right here, where my heart has always been. It's been bleeding brown and orange since the beginning, since we started this show, since the inception of this show. So there's that for you guys. And so we are on the air 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, get you ready for the weekend and get you recapping the weekend from Tuesday's show. So tonight's show going to be a little bit of a layback show because, of course, the NHL not happening right now. We're going to get back onto the ice tomorrow night with a slate of games, and we'll preview those games tomorrow as well. Also, we'll dive into what's happening in the pond with the walleye. Of course, a big trade that happened this yesterday afternoon, and I'll give you my take on that. Also, we'll look around as well to the different sports, of course, including my feelings on the Super Bowl as well as the Olympics. We'll get into the Olympics first here in just a second, but housekeeping first and foremost. I don't know if you noticed this. Above my head is some foam. It has been noticed, and it's been noticed by you, the fans, and you, the listeners, that this room is not truly soundproof. So the great thing that we did is that during this time of hiatus that we've been off the air for a long time since December, we've been working on the studio a little bit. So above us is insulation that has been provided from us, from some good friends of mine, that is soundproof, that comes from studio. So I'm grateful for that, and it has cut down the noise tremendously. I will say it has actually kind of brought the temperature down a little bit in the office, but that's why I'm wearing a little bit of the long sleeves. But other than that, we're trying to give you the best quality show that we can give you, and that's the key thing going forward for the rest of this year. We've got a lot to talk about this year. Of the rest of the way, we've got the run for the walleye for the playoffs. We've of course got the NFL draft and the NFL trade deadline. The start of baseball season, of course, our traditional baseball preview edition. We'll have that again this year. Also, we'll dive into a little bit more onto the golf side of things as well too. The Genesis was just this past weekend. I would like to talk more about the LPGA, of course, on this podcast because a lot of you, the listeners, like to hear that talk, especially when we were doing it exclusively for the podcast, especially because we were the exclusive podcast that was giving you up-to-date information on what was happening on the course when the Dana Open was taking place, as well as the Marathon Classic and everything like that. And now they taking a step back and doing it as the Aspen Tour. And we're going to talk more about the LPGA and the PGA more this year on the podcast, especially with next year being a huge year for golf in Northwest Ohio with the U.S. Women's Open coming to Inverness Club. I'll get into that as we go further and get closer to the dates with that, but that's a huge event that a lot of people need to circle their dates for that as well too. So you have that. Like I said, you have the walleye playoff run. You have the jackets getting onto the right page. We'll discuss more about that. It's going to be a fun run. It's going to be a fun run, and it's great to be back with you guys. It truly is. I love doing this show. I enjoy doing this show. And to all the people that have asked, where's the show been? Where have you gone? I say thank you. Thank you for checking in on me. Thank you for asking, my opinions and everything like that regarding the sports. Of course, a lot of people were like, once the show went off the air in December, it was like, is he coming back? Especially with January and February with the Super Bowl and everything like that. I decided I was kind of burned out. I was burned out a little bit on this show. I was burned out with the fact that, I couldn't find time to do this show and do the podcast and have the ability to sit down and collect my thoughts and do sports. But now I've got time. I enjoy doing it. I love doing it, and this is going to be a fun run. This really is going to be a fun run this year, especially with the second half of this hockey season into the full swing. Now you're all asking me the question, how's Amanda? Amanda's doing very, very well. We just celebrated our birthdays, of course, and celebrated Valentine's Day. We're also going to be celebrating, it will be our anniversary of when we started going out on March the 1st. So happy anniversary, babe. I love you. Everything else has been going great. The house is doing okay. Everything is, ship shape and well. If you're wondering when my next performance is on the stage, of course, I'm going to break that to you guys. I'm on the stage again coming up the weekend after St. Patrick's Day. I will be a part of the Toledo Voices with a show called Reply All. Great cast and a great director. She's absolutely fantastic. And the cast is absolutely great. Lane Hinkle, he is a fantastic actor, and the cast is just absolutely amazing. And so come out and see these, and these are one act performances. So it's not going to be, you're not going to be there all night till and it's all done performance, hand done by local people. The show that we're doing right now, the Reply All, is actually written by a gentleman who lives in Toledo and is doing this, wrote this show. And so, this is, and it's a comedy. So it's a great night out. Come and support this. Come and support these our great actors and our great directors and a great community theater in the Toledo Rep. So come and visit ToledoRep.org for ticket information with regarding of that, of course. So there's my show for on the theater side of things. I have been auditioning a few shows here and there. I got another one coming up soon. So there's that. Working on a few other things outside of outside the podcast as well too. I got a chance this past weekend actually to go to the Toledo Golf Show. Took in that, got me a new 5-wood and some new hybrids. Got my golf pass card, of course, and it was a great weekend for that. Of course, got to give a plug also to the good friends over there at the Toledo Card Show. Got a chance to go over there, take a look at some of the cards, of course, sell some of my cards as well too, and made some decent money off of it. I was very, very surprised of how much they were going to offer for. I was cleaning out my room in my parents' house, and I found a binder. of old Pokemon cards. Walked out with a little bit of change. Was regarding with the cards, and they do they're very, very well over there, and surprisingly found out that the 5th of March, the Toledo Card Show on Thursdays to do sports only themed nights, so just all sports cards, of course. And the Toledo Walleye will be sending some players over there for signings from 6 to 9 o'clock. So for 3 hours, you get a good, for free, get some autographs, as well as there'll be some sports cards there for sale and for for distribution and stuff like that. So come out and support this great. There's the company that does it, Toledo Sports Card Show, has their own little section of thing, but it's all a lot of you and me going in there and stuff. It's fantastic. It absolutely is fantastic. So highly recommended. Toledo Card Show. Find them on Facebook, as well as find us on Facebook, which is at all Andy Alfred, and find us on Twitter is at all Andy Alfred as well. So there's that. That is all the plugging I have, of course, unless we are back on the air. So let me recap everything that's been happening so far with regarding the sports. First and foremost, the Lions season. the collapse that it was. And it was a collapse. I will say that. I look forward to seeing what this upcoming season looks like. I want to see what this is going to look like this upcoming year. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Lions. I'm going to tell you that right now. So we'll get into more of the NFL draft and stuff like that when we get further down the road. But regarding the Super Bowl, I thought the game was good in the fourth quarter. Everything else was just terrible. I'm not a big fan of Bugs Bunny and his halftime show. His halftime show was, not very, very good. I couldn't understand a lot of it because, of course, I don't speak Spanish. I did take Spanish in high school and a little bit in college, but I did not understand Bugs Bunny at all when it comes to this whole situation. I did not enjoy the halftime show. And I'm not trying to be political or anything like that, and in that realm, but regarding the football game, the game itself was better in the fourth quarter than it was all three quarters of the game. You had all the momentum just come into that game in the fourth quarter, and the fact that Sam Darnold is now a Super Bowl quarterback, Super Bowl champion, says a lot. But congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks in a great season. And now we move on to the next season in the National Football League, which is starting right now with the scouting combine that's happening in Indianapolis right now. So we just continue the movement. We just continue the movement and the flow. So there's that. Second thing, of course, we'll talk about Bowling Green football really quickly. BG football, of course, did not make a bowl game. But however, I am very, very impressed on how the recruiting has gone. They are now the number one recruiting team in the Mid-American Conference. I give Eddie George a ton of credit for that. Headed down next Saturday, the 7th of March. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. He's going to have a big clinic about it, and he's going to talk about the recruits and everything like that. Looking forward to that. If you are wondering, I am not renewing the season tickets for this upcoming season. I will go to a few games, of course. I will go to the home opener and a few of the mid-action games, of course, and the big Toledo game that's happening a few miles down the road from where I sit and do this show. So, of course, it'll be big in that realm. So, I look forward to that. Of course, the national championship game that took place. It felt like, to me, it was. I just don't like the fact that how college football was just spread out and all the time frame and everything was all spread out. I just did not like it. I did not like it at all. I think they need to fix this, of course, and they need to going forward. They need to fix what's happening in college football as well as what's happening in the transfer portal. It all needs to be fixed with regarding to that, and they do need a commissioner. And I do agree with Kirk Herbstreit that Nick Saban should be the new commissioner of college football entirely. And we can't keep having these super conferences and stuff like that. And the big one for me is this. It was announced earlier last week that Sacramento State University is joining the Mid-American Conference. Sacramento State University joining the Mid-American Conference. Mid-America. The key word there is Mid-America. California is Mid-America. We have UMass already. That's now we have on opposite coast. Imagine UMass having to go all the way out to and Sacramento State is only for football. I'll give you that. But the problem I have with it is that you're going to have Sacramento State as just a football conference. You have to keep adding teams. You have to. And the fact that NIU leaves the Mid-American Conference, they go to the Mountain West. Sacramento State now goes into that play. And here's the key thing to that. They are now the representative in that portal. Because remember, there's 3-team portals. Central, Eastern, Western. You have Buffalo, UMass, and Oh, I forget what the third one is. Oh, I think it's Kent State. And then you have no, not Kent State. You have Akron, and then you have Kent. You have Ohio, Miami of Ohio, and Kent State, and then you have Ball State. I'm really drawing a blank right now. I'm drawing a blank. Who else is in the Ball State portal? But you have these teams in portals. Leaving that portal, which is Bowling Green and Toledo, they get added in to Sacramento State. That means Bowling Green's going to play Sacramento State. Toledo will be playing back Sacramento State. You've got to include, and you know, we're going to have the biggest, it's going to be the biggest joke when Ball State plays Sacramento State, because that abbreviation, Ball State's abbreviation is BALL, and Sacramento State's abbreviation is SAC. Figure it out. That's all I have to say about that. So there's that on that regard. Now we get to currently what is in front of us right now. And that is what we witnessed this past 3 weeks, which is the Winter Olympics. I enjoyed the Winter Olympics from start to finish. I enjoyed watching and sharing with my wife a lot of these sports that, you know, she was not particularly into. No, short track, skimo, the biathlon, which I enjoy watching the biathlon. I love watching the cross country skiing, downhill skiing, and shooting. How can you not enjoy that? And then you have curling, which is the big controversy with the Canadian men and the women cheating. The Canadian men the Canadian men win gold. That was a big thing. The figure skating was fantastic. You had the speed skating in the long track and short track was fantastic. I thought Milan did a great job hosting the Olympics, and Milan Cortina did a fantastic job. The bobsled, the luge, the double luge, and they did it. It was the skeleton. It was fantastic. They did a fantastic job. Now we get to ice hockey. Now, you know me, of course, the NHL off for 3 weeks because of the Olympics. I was fine with it. I was hesitant going into it. I said, you know, reading the reports of how bad the arena was and how it wasn't built right, it's not gonna be sustainable, and it was 3 feet short on opposite sides of the rink. So it's not regulation NHL ice. It's not regulation international ice. Were people complaining about it? Absolutely not. But it kind of helped out in a lot of aspects to the gold medal game between the United States and Canada. And the first few games of the round robin of the pool play, you could kind of tell what teams were going to be dominant because of that smaller ice surface. You could definitely tell. The Canadians, the Americans, you had the Finns, you had the Slovenia, the Czechs. They were all dominant on the ice. Those 5 teams were dominant. I mean, you had the United States absolutely putting a licking to Latvia. You had them absolutely destroy Italy. You had them they ran the tournament, getting the first round bye, and getting into the round robin tournament. Into the tournament. You had the Canadians playing a tougher schedule. They played a tougher schedule, in my opinion. You had the Slovenia. You had them play against Sweden. You had them play harder games. They get into the tournament as the number 1 seed. the United States goes in as the number 2 seed. They both get first round byes. Germany and all these teams that keep playing, you kind of figure, something was going to be developing. You knew that if the United States was in the same bracket with Canada, was in the same bracket, and they were playing each other in, let's say, the semifinals, it wouldn't be as big as what it was. But of course, it shaped up to what Sunday was, and Canada and the United States. And I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't around in 1980 when the Olympics took place in Lake Placid. But this game on Sunday was probably one of the best games I've watched in a long, long time. It will go down in history as probably one of my top 5 games, hockey-wise, I have ever witnessed in my entire life. And to the media members that are out there that are saying that the NHL will not get a boost because of this, should be ashamed of themselves. Should be ashamed of. I have respect for Christopher Russo. I love Chris. Mad Dog. I love Mad Dog. He's a fantastic guy. A pioneer in sports talk radio with Mike Francesa and him. Cam's on the air. The caller calls up and says to him, do you think that the NHL is going to get a boost out of this? And usually it has in the past. You date back to 2014 when they were in the Sochi games, and that was the last time that the NHL was in the realm. NHL attendance went up 24% after that. Of course, it went down as when they did the Pyeongchang, South Korea Olympics and the Tokyo Olympics because both the NHL did not send their players there. So this was the first time in 12 years that the Olympics were going to have NHL players. 2010, attendance went up 35% because of the fact. For Christopher Mad Dog Russo to go out there and say that the NHL doesn't won't pick up attendance because of this, I say to Chris, bull. I see them picking up attendance. I see more people coming to the rink, coming in and watching more games. And to Chris said this also, which pissed me off. And like I said, I love Chris. What pissed me off is that, he says I don't watch the regular season NHL games. I'll watch the Olympics and I'll watch the postseason because that's when the games matter and everything like that. I say to Chris, there's people like me and millions of fans around the world that watch the regular season and care about the regular season. And for me, it's appointment viewing to watch my team, the Columbus Blue Jackets, play hockey and getting the opportunity to watch this team play. Okay? And you talk about how you don't watch regular season NHL games and you do the same thing of watching NBA. You don't watch much of the regular season of the NBA games. But tell me something about, Chris, how you complain about the players in the NBA about load management. And you complain about, I watched the games the other night. He didn't play against this team, but he played against this team and played this team against this team. And then you say you don't watch the regular season. Give me a freaking break. Give me a break. And then you make fun of Eddie and Colin, and they talk about hockey and they watch hockey games, and you make fun of them because of that. Chris, there's 182 games in a baseball season. You watch all 182 baseball games? Because I watch all 72 NHL hockey games with my team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Give me a break, Chris. You're a hypocrite. An absolute hypocrite. when it comes to that. And I love you. I enjoy watching you, and I followed your career. And to be honest with you, you're one of the key guys in my life when it comes to sports talk. There's like 4 guys in this world: Bruce Drennan, Ernie Harwell, Chris Russo, Mike Francis. These 4 guys were honestly one of the driving forces of me getting into sports for talk radio and doing sports talk radio. And the fact that you have the audacity to say that you don't care about the regular season of the National Hockey League is just absolutely, a lot of us do not get an opportunity to celebrate our teams making a postseason run or playing for the Stanley Cup. Like I said it so many times, and people have made fun of me over the years when I wear my Blue Jacket jersey when I see the Stanley Cup and say, "Oh, that's the closest that the team's going to get to seeing the Stanley Cup," and blah 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 blah. It might happen. I've been on this planet for 36 years. I have yet to see my team even contend and make it to the NHL Finals. We've made it to the semifinals. I've had so many people that have made fun of me because, as Red Wing fans, it's like, well, how many cups does the Blue Jackets have? How many cups has the Jackets won? How many times has they played for the cup? And I turned to those Red Wing fans and said, when was the last time you were in the playoffs? When was the last time that you were contending for a cup? You got to go back, way back, before Little Caesars was even open. So think about that for a second. There's that. So again, Sunday's game, the NHL did the Olympics did a fantastic job, and with the big win, of course, with Hughes getting the game winner, it was fantastic. And I will admit, I raised my hand. I had Canada to probably win the gold medal. I put a futures wager down on that. As soon as they were losing against Finland, I cashed out and put my money into the United States. And it paid off regarding that. But again, the United States are winner 2-1 over Canada. They get the gold, Canada the silver. Finland beats Slovakia 6-1. They pick up the bronze. And so the NHL now will come back into session tomorrow night. It is a huge night on the docket. Philadelphia is in Washington. Toronto is in Tampa. That game on TNT, 7:30 drop for that one. Dallas hosts Seattle. Colorado in Utah. Winnipeg's in Vancouver. The late game on TNT will be Vegas. And the Kings, Anaheim, hosting the Edmonton Oilers. The Jackets return to the ice on Thursday. 7 o'clock drop. Jackets in the TD Garden to take on the Boston Bruins. A huge matchup. Jackets going into the second half of the season 29-20-7. Boston 32-20-5 going into the game. Other games that are happening on Thursday. You have the Islanders in Montreal. Detroit is in Ottawa to take on the Senators. I know a person that hates the Ottawa Senators. Toronto's in Florida to take on the Panthers. New Jersey is in Pittsburgh. Tampa is in Carolina. Philadelphia is in New York. That game on ESPN, 8 o'clock drop. St. Louis hosting Seattle. Most of the league will be playing Thursday. Chicago and Nashville, Minnesota, Colorado, Calgary, and San Jose. Edmonton is in LA to battle the Kings. So going now into the second half of this season, a huge part of the second half of the season. This is the big run, ladies and gentlemen. This is it right here. This is now the sprint to the playoffs, of course, whereas we are now less than a month and a half away from the end of the season. And if you're looking at it this way, here's where it stands. The Atlantic Division will go over the top three teams. Top three teams in the Atlantic right now are Tampa at 37-14-4 with 78 points. Montreal 32-17-8 with 72 points. And the Detroit Red Wings are 33-19-6 with 72 points. Metropolitan Division sees Carolina at 36-15-6 with 78 points. They're taking the division. I think they will easily take the division. I think Carolina's even get more healthier as they go further on. The surprise right now is Pittsburgh, 29-15-12 with 70 points. The Islanders, 32-21-5 with 69 points. Wild card standings looks like this. You have Buffalo in the top spot in the wild card at 32-19-6 with 70 points. Boston, right now, 32-20-5 with 69 points. Columbus is the team on the outside looking in. They are 29-20-7 with 65 points. They have 3 games at hand over the Washington Capitals, who have played 59 games, are 29-23-7 with 65 points. Ottawa 28-22-7 with 63 points. The Leafs are 27-21-9 with 63 points. Philadelphia 25-20-11 with 61 points. The defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers are 29-25-3 with 61 points. They are third worst in the league in the Eastern Conference. And then you have the Devils are 28-27-2 with 58 points. And the Rangers 22-29-6 with 50 points. That's what the Eastern Conference looks like. So the Jackets on the outside looking into this playoff picture. You go into the Western Conference, the Central right now, Colorado 37-9-9 with 83 points. They're going to win the President's Trophy. Just going to tell you that right now. They're going to win the President's Trophy. They have not gotten to double-digit losses yet, and their second half schedule looks. I can't even believe how good their second half schedule looks like. And we'll pull that up here in a second. Minnesota 34-14-10 with 78 points. Dallas 34-14-9 with 77 points. The Pacific Division with the Vegas Golden Knights at 27-16-14 with 68 points. Edmonton, 28-22-8 with 64 points. Seattle, 27-20-9 with 63 points. The Utah Mammoths are holding on to the top wildcard spot by 1 point. 1 point, 30-23-4 with 64 points. Anaheim is the second team at 30-23-3 with 63 points. The Kings on the outside looking in at 23-19-14-6 with 60 points. Nashville, 26-24-7 with 59 points. San Jose is 27-24-4 with 58 points. Chicago, 22-26-9 with 53 points. Winnipeg is 22-26-8 with 52 points. Calgary, 23-27-6 with 52 points. St. Louis, 20-28-9 with 49 points. And the Vancouver Canucks are 18-33-6 with 42 points. If you look at it, the worst team in the league is Vancouver with the 42 points. It's Vancouver, then St. Louis. Then you get to the Rangers at 50 points. And then after that, it's Calgary, Winnipeg, Chicago, and then New Jersey in that realm. With that all in mind, of course, next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday is the NHL trade deadline. Players can now be moved. They can start being moved as of midnight on Monday. We've already got one trade going on right now between Pittsburgh and the Colorado Avalanche. That has been made official. And I wanted to get that trade to you guys here. It was Girard to the Penguins for Kuvlak. And so that's where it stands right now. That's where it stands right now with regarding the National Hockey League. Now, the big one with me is that with the Olympics ending, Sidney Crosby was injured during the Olympics. Is he going to be injured starting into this upcoming run for Pittsburgh? Because if that's the case, Pittsburgh could start to fall, and the shot for Columbus to get into the playoff picture can open itself up if they keep running. Now, that was the bad thing with this whole 3 weeks off thing. Columbus coming into this week, into those games, was running a hot streak. They've won 7 straight games. Can they continue this momentum going into the second half of the season? It's a big question to ask. I think they can. They need to pick up pieces, and they need to sign the UFAs, the unrestricted free agents, the UFAs. That's what it stands for. Jenner's up for a contract. He needs to get signed. He is a voice in the locker room. Number 2, you need to get the situation done with Elvis Merzlikins. Is he staying? Is he going? If he's going, we need to pick up some pieces. And with Rick Bowness at the helm and Don Lindell, they need to make some moves at the trade deadline to get this team over the hump. It was a few years ago, Matt Duchene coming to Columbus, Anthony Duclair coming to Columbus. Can we make that move again? Can we make these moves again? You look at what teams that are going to be selling. The Rangers are going to be selling. The Devils are going to be selling. Hell, I think even Florida might be selling. You get to the Western Conference, you got Chicago, you've got St. Louis, Calgary, Vancouver's got a young team. Who is going to be selling? These teams are going to be selling because you have teams like Edmonton who's going to try to booster themselves. You're going to have an LA Kings that are going to try to make a run. Colorado's set. They're going to be set. You're going to have a Minnesota that's going to have to boost up. Dallas that's going to boost up. Hell, you're going to have Detroit in the Eastern Conference going to try to stay afloat and hang with Montreal. So the question is, can Columbus make the moves, sign these UFAs, see what we can do money-wise to bring in the talent to get us to the cup, get us to the playoffs? Because my God, the last time we were in the playoffs, I was wearing a face mask. And I was playing golf with the pool noodle inside of the thing. That was the last time. So it's got to happen. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. And then I will give you this. Next Friday, all Andy Alfred is in Columbus. Thursday night, we will be in Columbus for the hockey game, Jackets, Panthers. I'm there. I'm going to be there to watch this game and watch it take place. The wife, of course, a huge Bobrovsky fan, big Panther fan. I'm going to see the boys for the first time since the Detroit game. We'll see what happens. And going forward for the Jackets, I'm going to look at the schedule. I know you guys, I'm going to harp on it. I am harping hard on this. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a very, very interesting schedule going forward with Columbus. Columbus has got an interesting schedule going forward. It starts Thursday in Boston. They then come home on Saturday against the Islanders, 6 o'clock drop at the Schwide. And then the March games are huge. There's going to be a game almost every other day. March 2nd in New York at the Garden. Home to play Nashville. Our game, of course, against Florida. That Saturday against Utah. Playoff compatibility. The makeup game is huge. This is a huge one, though. This is huge. Of course, this big snowstorm that took place back in January, it's got snowed out. The game between the Kings and the Blue Jackets are making that up March the 9th, a 4 o'clock in the afternoon drop. Then Columbus goes down to Tampa. That's a playoff game. Goes down to Florida. Big playoff game. goes to Philadelphia. Huge game in that realm. Carolina, Rangers, Kraken. 2 out of the 3 are playoff contention teams. Then you've got the Islanders, the Flyers, Montreal. And then home to San Jose. Then home to Boston the next night. And then Carolina on the 31st of March. And then the big one, April. You get into April, this is one that's do or die. Carolina, Winnipeg, Detroit on a Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. We will be there for that game. April 7th, Tuesday, April 7th. I think that's the same day as Mud Hen opening day. I'm going to have to make the decision. Buffalo on the road, Montreal, and the final 2 games, Washington at home and Boston. We're going to find out by the middle of March if this team is going to be a playoff team. If they can do this, they have to. All right. Situation-wise, I'm going to play this out. Okay. They play Boston on Thursday. I think that will be a loss. That will be the first loss. Home to the Islanders, I think that's a win. There's one win there. Get into March. Win against the Rangers. I'll say a win against Nashville. I think it'll be close. Win against Florida. Utah might be the tough game. They might lose that one. I'll say that's a loss. Home to the Kings. Afternoon game. I think that's a win. They go to Tampa. They'll lose that one. It's playing it back-to-back. They ain't going to play well back-to-back. Go down to Florida. Win. Philadelphia. That's a win. Home to Carolina. That's a loss. Home to the Rangers. That's a win. Home to Seattle. That's a win. I will say it's a win. In the Isle to take on the Islanders, that's a win. Might be hard for a back-to-back. In Philadelphia, that's a win. They lose in Montreal. Win against San Jose. Lose against Boston. Lose against Carolina. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll say 6 losses there. I see possibly 6 losses. Then you get into April. I'm breaking the schedule down. Do you see Mad Dog Russo doing this? Hell no. Road to Carolina, that's a loss. Winnipeg, that's a win. In Detroit, that's a game. Circle it. If they're for real, this is the game. I think they pick up the victory. Buffalo, that's a tough one too. In Buffalo, I want to say that's going to be a win. I'll say it in the face of John Gruden. That's a win, brother. But they go to Montreal next. That's a loss. Home to Boston. Boston's either in or out. If they're out, that's a win. Washington, that's a win. So they've got to win out. They got to win. I would say 62%. Yeah, 62% of their games going forward to get in. If they can do it, then they can do it. But they need help. So Don and Rick Nash, get them going. Break out the phone. Start making the calls. See what we can do. We've got talent in Cleveland. We've got it. And by the way, the Monsters doing very, very well. So there's that. So there's that with regarding of the NHL. Now let's hit the pond and talk a little walleye really quickly. Of course, the walleye, the big announcement, of course, from this past weekend, of course, the huge trade that Toledo just had. As you're listening, by the way, you're listening to us on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning in, as well as watching us here on YouTube. Now, back to the walleye. Walleye making a huge trade, of course, this past Monday, sending Kobe Albrosio, Will Hillman, Jake Piedma, and another player to Jacksonville for 2 players. McDonald is a great player. He came up at the same time with Brandon Hawkins. But this move coming out of the break, after this big road trip where they went to Trois Rivières to basically avenge the demons that they had against the Lions. And they lose the series 2-3. Losing on Friday 6-3, winning 4-1 on Saturday, and then losing in a 9-round shootout on Sunday 4-3. And this season for the Fish has been up and down. I'm going to tell you this right now. I have faith that they're definitely going to make the playoffs. Do I see them contending for a cup? This is tough. Especially how good the season has been in the East Coast Hockey League. And the fact that this team, this walleye team has been struggling. And they've got a big test in front of them with Cincinnati, of course, on Wednesday, which shouldn't be that much of a test. But then you have 3 games in 3 nights. Bloomington, Friday, Saturday. And then you get into March the 1st on Sunday, home to Iowa. A lot of home games. Cincinnati on the 6th, and then you have Wichita coming in on March the 8th. That's the only time Wichita is coming into the season. And then it's a huge road trip. Savannah, South Carolina for 2 games, back to Savannah on a Monday night. And then you have Lake Tahoe the weekend after. The weekend after St. Patrick's Day. 3 games against Lake Tahoe and the Lake Monsters. Indy, Bloomington for 2. On the road to Indianapolis and Kalamazoo. Then home on the 4th of April against Wheeling, which is the makeup, which will be not the makeup game. I don't believe it's the makeup game. No, the makeup game is the 17th. My apologies. So there's that. Yes, and opening day is April 7th. Ha! I'm going to have to make a decision on that one. The 10th against Cincinnati. Then they're in Cincinnati on the April 11th. Into Fort Wayne on the 12th. And then they play Fort Wayne on the 16th. And then Wheeling at home April 17th. That's the final game of the year. These games making up from the walkout that took place. The walkout that took place. We saw 3 games canceled in the East Coast Hockey League. 3 games canceled in the East Coast Hockey League. So there's that. So, let's get into it. You look at the standings. Toledo is not leading the Central Division. Fort Wayne is. But Toledo has 2 games at hand in Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne has played 50 games. They're 29, 13, 8-0 with 66 points. Toledo is 28, 12, 4-4 with 64 points. They're second place. Third is Indianapolis. They're 23, 17, 8-1 with 55 points. Bloomington is 25, 21, 2-2 with 54 points. Kalamazoo 22, 21 at 3-3 with 50 points. Cincinnati 22-23, 3-0 with 47 points. Iowa 17-28, 3-2 with 39 points. And I'm going to tell you this, folks, too. This is coming out. I've heard this, and this is a reliable source that has said that Iowa looks like they're going to be folding at the end of the season. They cannot draw the attendance. They cannot draw the fans to come in. And ownership is not going to pay the bill anymore. So it might get passed on to the fans, and the fans are going to be the ones that have to pay higher ticket prices. But they don't have that big of a fan base anyway. Their building seats 6,000. They're averaging only 3,000 in attendance in the games. So it's not good. It's not good for Iowa. If Iowa does fold, the rumor is, and this is what I was told from a good, reliable source in the East Coast Hockey League, is that Wheeling will then move back from the Eastern Conference back into the Central Conference in the Western Conference and move to the Central Division to fill that void. So then you would have four. So basically, it would fill out perfectly. That from West Virginia to the West would be Western Conference. And then the whole East Coast, the original East Coast, would be the Eastern Conference. And of course, you've heard that the Utah Grizzlies, this is their final season in the East Coast Hockey League, which makes sense because the Utah Mammoths are taking over right now, and everybody loves watching the Mammoths. So the Grizzlies are folding. But they're moving. They're moving the franchise to New Mexico. They're going to be called the Yard Goats, if I'm not mistaken, or the Goats, and they're going to have the same color spectrum as the, if I was not reading right, the Arizona Coyotes, but the affiliation will be Colorado Avalanche, Colorado Eagles, and New Mexico. So that makes sense. So it makes sense in that realm. So there. If you look at the mountain right now, Kansas City 48-1-1 with 82 points. Idaho 33-15-4-0 with 70 points. The Allen Americans 27-18-5-0 with 59 points. Lake Tahoe 26-22-3 with 57 points. Wichita 21-24-4 with 50 points. Rapid City is 22-23-4-0 with 48 points. Utah final season 19-25-7-0 with 45 points. And the Tulsa Oilers 14-29-5-0 with 33 points. I just don't understand why Tulsa's got the organization still there. It just doesn't make sense. Eastern Conference looks like this. Florida's running the top spot in the division at 31-11, 6-2 with 70 points. Atlanta 13-2-1 with 67 points. South Carolina, very, very good this year. 32-18-1-0 with 65 points. Wheeling is the fourth team in that division. They're 30-13-2-3 with 65 points. Right on their heels is Adirondack at 30-13-4-1 with 65 points. Maine is 26-15-5-2 with 59 points. Reading 26-18-4-1 with 57 points. Savannah 26-19-3-1 with 56 points. Worcester 23-25-1 with 52 points. Trois-Rivières with their two wins against Toledo are now 23-11-1-3 with 50 points. Greenville 21-22-5-1 with 48 points. Orlando 20-27-4-1 with 45 points. Jacksonville is 19-25-5-0 with 43 points. So they're looking to build and try to get back into the swing of things. Norfolk 19-27-2-0 with 40 points. And the new team owned by Biz, Greensboro, 13-29-5-1 with 32 points. You realize that they're not talking that much about them on the Spit and Chicklets podcast. You realize that? They've been kind of quiet about Greensboro. Kind of quiet on Greensboro. So there's that, the North Division and the South Division. That's what it all stands out to. So we'll see what happens. Of course, Toledo, like I said, back at home after Wednesday's game in Cincinnati, 7:35 puck drop for that affair. So there is that. That's what's happening on the pond right now as you're watching and listening to All Andy Alfred tonight right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us tonight, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's dive into some baseball talk. Of course, spring training has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. I am ecstatic that baseball is back, of course. And, this joke, well, of course, before we even get into the start of the season, this joke that's called the World Baseball Classic. Now, my feelings about the World Baseball Classic. Of course, this is going to give us a nice indication of what Los Angeles 2028 is going to look like on some of the teams. But again, I don't see the point. I don't see the point to it. Of course, we're into the start of spring training. The Tigers lost today to Atlanta 8-1. But the big, of course, everybody's talking about right now is the big signing of Justin Verlander back to Detroit. This is probably going to be his last year. He signed a 1-year deal. A 2-year deal with a lot of that money backloaded to 2030. But you look at this rotation that Detroit's got. Skubal, Mize, Verlander. You've got the new kid in oh my God. God, you're drawing a blank. You got Jack Flaherty. You've got all this pitching. Can it sustain this season? Can it? But it's not good. It's not a good start for Detroit when you're 0-3 in spring training. And the bad thing was you give up 20 runs to the New York Yankees in Game 1. You've got a split squad tomorrow with the Blue Jays and the Phillies, and Casey Mize starting against the Blue Jays. So there. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. You have Jack Flaherty. You'll get Kenley Jensen. You got Kenley Jensen, of course. Casey Mize. Skubal. Fowler Valdez. That's it. That's Valdez. So Skubal, Valdez, Verlander, Mize. You could put Mize in the bullpen. I will say that between Mize and Verlander and Flaherty are the two. I would put that in that realm. So yeah, and then you've got Jackson Jobe that's sitting there with the IL with the 60-day. He's done for the season. So there's that. Pitching wise, your infield, you got Cole Keith, Zach McKinstry, Trey Sweeney, Gleyber Torres, which is, of course, another one. Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter. In the outfield, you got Baez. And they're going to put Baez out in the outfield. I'm interested to see how that's going to shake out. Baez in the outfield, Carpenter, Green, Furling. I mean, this is going to be an interesting team this year. You got Hajo Lead that's going to be there, of course. It's right now in the 40-man roster right now. McKinstry. Of course, you got Carpenter, Parker Meadows, Jamadi Jones. I mean, the 40-man roster is going to be interesting to see how it's going to really, really shake out. We'll get more into that this upcoming season. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Tigers do this year. Now, in regards to the Guardians, of course, as we're covering all three teams. Guardians were in action today against the Dodgers. They fell to the Dodgers 11-3. The big move, of course, is that they did not make any big offseason splashes. They did re-sign Jose Ramirez. But other than that, what else did they get? So I think Cleveland's going to have a down year this year, in my opinion. The Reds, I think, are on the right track. They got a win today against Kansas City, 5-4. They're 1-2 in spring training. So that's their first win. Kansas City's 2-3. By the way, the Guardians are 4-1 in spring training. That was their first loss. Dodgers are a perfect 4-0 in spring training. So there's that for you guys. Some spring training talk, of course. It'll be interesting to see how that's going to shake out. I'm interested to see how this Connor Griffin's going to perform. He was great last year with Pittsburgh in the minor league system. He was great playing against Toledo with Indianapolis. I think he's going to be a very key piece for Pittsburgh this upcoming year. Having a breakout game today against Boston. We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. Of course, baseball season right around the corner. And of course, yours truly, our good friend Lucas Sigerson, and our good friend Robert Logie Bear Carr, all going to be sitting down for a roundtable discussion right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network. So looking forward to that going forward. So you are watching and listening to All Andy Alfred tonight right here on the All Andy Alfred Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you listen to us, wherever and whenever you listen to us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, I mentioned Bowling Green hockey. Of course, they split the series against Minnesota State. They forced the overtime on Saturday, lose the game in a shootout, and then they lost on Saturday, their final two home games of the year. I want to say they have one more game left, but don't quote me on it. I'm going to look it up really, really quickly. Yeah, CCHA, part of the CCHA. And remember, it's the top four teams make the playoffs. They are at Michigan Tech this weekend. And if you look at it, the top four teams make the cut, and Bowling Green's on the outside looking in right now, ladies and gentlemen. Their season so far, Bowling Green in conference play is 13-7-4. They have 2 games to play. It's the Augusta Knights holding the top spot right now in conference play at 14-8-4. And then the St. Thomas Tommies. The Tommies are 15-6-3 in conference play, 18-10-4 overall. Look at Bowling Green's record. They're 16-9-7 overall. But the top 4 teams make the postseason: Minnesota State, Michigan Tech, St. Thomas, and Augusta. And those 2 wins for those 2 points for Minnesota State last weekend were huge. Absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. So Bowling Green needs to take care of business, beat Michigan Tech, and maybe, just maybe, they can hop over Minnesota State to get that 4th spot. They would have to then travel on the road to Augusta for a best-of-3 series against the Vikings. Very, very tough. Very, very tough in that realm. Also, really quickly, got to plug it. Right now, the American Hockey League, of course, as the Cleveland Monsters are, they're doing pretty well. If we're looking around the rest of the hockey world, of course. If we go from, of course, we talked about the Walleye, we talked about the Jackets, and the Jackets' big game Thursday night against Boston, 7:30 puck drop for that one. Of course, the big matchup, of course, Cleveland. You look at Cleveland's standings right now into this so far this season. It looks like this. In the Eastern Conference, they're in the North Division. They're holding the 3rd spot right now at 27-16-6-1 with 61 points. Lavelle's holding the top spot at 33-15-2-3 with 71 points. It's Syracuse at 30-17-3-1 with 64 points, and Rochester's right behind it with 56 points at 24-17-5-3 with 56 points. Grand Rapids is, amazing. 47-2 with 83 points. They are the team to beat in the American Hockey League. Just going to tell you, put that out there right now. They are the team to beat in the American Hockey League. Plain and simple. Plain and simple in that realm. Of course, this past weekend, of course, was the Genesis Open that took place past weekend on the links. And it was, Tiger Woods put a post out about the fact that he still could be in contention to play in the Masters at 55. 55. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. But yes, the Genesis last weekend, of course. Bridgman, the winner, 18 under par. Rory McIlroy finished tied for second at 17 under par. Adam Scott, 16 under par. He finishes in fourth place. Of course, the LPGA was in action too, over across the Western Pacific, as they were over in Thailand in the Honda LPGA Thailand, and the native Chinovich, 24 under par. She wins the tournament. They now head over to take on the HBC Women's World Championship in Singapore. That will be happening this weekend. Lydia Ko is the defending champion in that realm. And by the way, all our golf coverage is presented by Scramble Stick. Scramble Stick is the stick for you. And now introducing the new Scramble Clip. Scramble Stick Clip. You can hook it onto any golf cart with either the extension or more. Visit us at scramblestick.com for more information and to purchase your Scramble Stick. So there's that. Also, this weekend is WWE Elimination Chamber. Of course, we find out also that it will be over the weekend. We found out it was a great Monday Night Raw. If you haven't watched it, go find it on Netflix. AJ Styles' retirement was fantastic. He's now going to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. I'm looking forward to that. Also, we find out that Liv Morgan is going to face Stephanie Vaquer for the World Heavyweight Championship, so I'm spoiling it for you guys. But of course, this weekend is the Elimination Chamber. You have CM Punk taking on Finn Balor. You have a men's and a women's chamber match. It's going to be a fun weekend in Chicago, as well as AJ Lee taking on Becky Lynch for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship match as well. The winner of the men's chamber will face Drew McIntyre. The women's winner will face Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. Of course, we also saw Brock Lesnar last night as well. And we all know we know that Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble. He has chosen CM Punk, and that will be the match bearing what happens on Elimination Chamber, as CM Punk is facing Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. The winner of that match will face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and the main event at WrestleMania, which will be Sunday night. So there's that. And by the way, with Liv winning the Women's Royal Rumble, does that mean that she's going to main event Saturday night then? That would make the only case to that. But last night, very emotional. We find out AJ Styles is going into the WWE Hall of Fame. And it's a great Raw. I find myself watching more WWE now than AEW. I enjoy watching AEW. And I've been watching a little NXT. I'm actually kind of taping it right now as we speak, as we're doing the podcast, because we're just a little after 8 o'clock here in Toledo. So there is that for you. So that covered everything. I know it's a little long episode. It's about an hour and change. I do apologize. But it's great to be back with you guys talking sports. And it's great to be back with you here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network. Friday, again, we will be at Slater Family Ice Arena at the Madhouse on Mercer. Stick to our Twitter account and follow us and like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, and follow us and subscribe on Facebook, as well as wherever you get our show. Remember, tickets are available for Toledo Voices, ToledoRep.org. That's where yours truly will be on the stage the weekend after St. Patrick's Day. And I have a decision now to make. Opening day for the Mud Hens or Detroit versus Columbus for the possibility of going to the Stanley Cup playoffs. The choices are yours, and yours alone. Or mine. But that's all the time I have for you tonight right here on All You Can Be Offered. Like I said, it's been great to be back on the air. We'll be back on the air Friday. It'll be a Facebook Live show, Facebook Live from the Madhouse on Mercer. That's All You Can Be Offered. Will be in Bowling Green, Ohio for the BG High School game against Clay High School. So until then, this is Andy Alfred signing off from the studios here in West Toledo. And as always, I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together. The game of life. Keep your stick on the ice. And to the teams you root for at home, and to my teams, go Jackets! Go Walleye! Go Falcons! And go Bobcats! Go Tigers! Go Guardians! Go Reds! And soon go Hens! And more birdies and less bogeys, because victory is sweetest when you have tasted defeat. Have a great night, everybody, and a great rest of the week. I'll talk to you Friday night from Slater Family Ice Arena on All Andy Alfred. Love you, babe. Talk to you guys then.